guys, this is Stormmouse03.
And I'm Iron Praetorian.
Welcome to Ramblings of Mad People! We need a theme song. Where we talk about our gaming escapades over the past month and how things have been going in our necks of the woods.
Indeed.
So to speak. So it was a banger of a month for me last month.
You had a Rob month.
I did. It was insane. I completed a lot of things. So I have a lot of stuff to sort of get through, and I know that you didn't do quite as much. So I'll be doing a couple of things, and then in between each one of yours. It just is that way sometimes, where sometimes we have months where we do more or less.
I mean, I did something traumatizing and had to take a break, so
it's true. You had trauma and I had lots of
happy super fun times.
Happy super fun times. I had a little bit of trauma in the middle of the month too, but it wasn't anything compared to your trauma. So
we're talking about gaming trauma, nothing bad has
yes,
happened.
Gaming trauma, not real life trauma, not actual trauma, just frustrations is probably a better way to put that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I kicked off the month with the Life is Strange trilogy. And I say trilogy because Life is Strange 2 doesn't count.
It wasn't that one and Before the Storm for me. I'm just like,
yeah. Like I enjoyed Before the Storm, but Life is Strange 2, like it connects to the others, kind of. Like it has a connecting element, but it's a totally different story and not one that I particularly enjoyed.
No.
Like, I can understand why people like it. It is just not my thing.
I feel like lack of agency for me with 2, where it's like you're doomed whatever way you go.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess that's similar in the first one. That's not true. It's not doomed whatever way you go. So let me just say, so I did Life is Strange Before the Storm, and True Colors. So those were the 3 that I did. I did Life is Strange and Before the Storm Remastered on Xbox, and True Colors on PS4. And I had played all of these before. So I had played all these games before. So it was really more of a revisiting of that series for me, and, playing the remastered versions, which I will say, the remastered version of Before the Storm was, at least on Xbox One, was so janky with some of the cutscenes and stuff. It was literally like the video itself was staticky. Almost. It was stuttering.
Almost like stuttering.
Yeah.
I feel like it's maybe was designed for the S and X and the port for the... Well, not the port, but the, like...
Yeah, it's
Xbox One wasn't up to it. Or it
maybe.
was just...
It's so weird because I didn't notice, like, that huge of a graphical increase between the original versions and the remastered versions. It feels a lot more like they just sort of ported it and did a little bit of like resolution changing and shading, maybe.
Unless your Xbox was just having a moment.
Maybe, but everything else played fine, and the Life is Strange remaster was okay. So I don't know what was up with Before the Storm, whether it was my box or whether it was that remaster in particular. But a lot of the cutscenes just did not function. And the processing, I think, of it, like the processor couldn't handle it, and that impacted the achievements a little bit. Like it took them a moment to unlock a lot of times, and then there were a couple of occasions where they did not unlock, and I had to reload and play a section again and pick up a collectible again in order for it to unlock. So it feels like the processing was a little behind on that one in particular.
Yeah.
Unless it was just Xbox being finicky around that time, which is certainly possible. So, other than that, though, it was really pleasant going back to play these games. It's a series that I like. I like the atmosphere of it. I like the characters. I like the choices and the like powers. And I think that's maybe where Before the Storm kind of struggles a little bit in comparison to the other two, is that there isn't really that sort of supernatural element to it. And it's more just people being people.
I feel like it's vaguely hinted at that Rachel might be, but not.
Yeah,
we don't know. Like the bit with the trash can that's on fire or whatever, and
sure,
she shouts at it, and it like seems to waver a bit, but it's like nothing is explicitly said.
Right. I agree. It has that hint of maybe she has some kind of an ability, but it's definitely not fully fledged, and it's left very much up to interpretation there. Yeah. And your character that you're playing as, and this is another problem with Life is Strange 2, is that your character that you're playing is not the person who has abilities.
Yeah.
Right? And I do like, that Chloe's ability, quote unquote, is attitude. Right? So she's like...
Activate sass.
Activate sass. Activate intimidation. Or activate charisma. Like, it's her force of personality, and that's her ability set. Right? Like, I think that works for the character.
So she's a rogue that took expertise in deception, intimidation, and persuasion.
Right. And I do really like the D&D sections of Before the Storm. So it's like that one, I think the narrative of it is the weakest for me, but I do really like elements of it.
I like the Shakespeare.
And the play, The Tempest is pretty cool. The original game, Life is Strange, I think has a really strong narrative, but I don't like the end choice. I think it feels way too forced and contrived, and I could have a whole rant about that, which I'm not going to do.
It's arbitrary in, like, when things need a price to be paid and when they don't.
Yes. And it feels like it doesn't fully hit the theme that it's trying to hit. I guess, which is, that there's a cost to things, or that you can't change the past, or that some things are supposed to happen the way they happen. I think that it's confusing as to what it's trying to go for there at the end.
And maybe that was it being the first game and them not being as, like, experienced with how they want to deliver their, like, messages within their games. Whereas, like, True Colors, they've had 3 beforehand.
Yes.
To kind of work out the kinks.
Yeah, to kind of refine how they want to present characters, how they want to present setting, and how they want to present theme. And I think True Colors is my favorite of the Life is Strange games, because I think that they hit all of those things very well. I think the characters are very well fleshed out. I think the setting is really well done. That's true of the others as well. They always, from the beginning, they hit the setting very well. And the characters really well. I think it was just that overall kind of theme that they didn't quite do. So... Anyway, it was cool to go back and revisit those games. I found myself having more thoughts about, like, what does this really mean, and what's actually going on here, and what are the themes, and why do I like this one versus these others. more, I was able to kind of suss that out for myself a little bit more, which again, I don't want to go into because it would be heavily like spoilers in terms of the story and stuff like that. So not going to go.
I'm hoping what I said was vague enough that it didn't.
Yeah. Not to go into specifics, right, with those kinds of things, but I'll say
they're very character and narrative driven, and you don't want to get spoiled on that because that's literally the game.
Exactly.
Mechanically, they're very simple.
Mechanically, they are very simple. They are very similar to Telltale games, where they're
point and click adventure kind of mechanics.
It's a step up from visual novels, right?
Yeah.
Like they have a little bit of gameplay that's going on in there, where you have the rewind time stuff in the first one, and you have the sass in Before the Storm. And you have I guess it's charisma checks. That's what it is. It's charisma checks in Before the Storm. And
that's why I said she had expertise in all the charisma skills.
And it's the empath reading emotions and being able to alter people's emotions in True Colors, right? So you have those aspects of gameplay in them, but other than that, they're point and click adventure / visual novel kinds of choose your own adventure, I guess, kind of stuff, because you do make choices that impact how the story plays out.
Do you open the door? If you do, turn to page 97.
Yeah. So, there is gameplay. They're not the most gameplay driven games, and therefore if you spoil the story, then you've spoiled the game. So yeah, I had a good time going back and replaying them though, and I love True Colors, and I love Steph, and I love all of the nerdy LARP stuff that happens in that one, and so that one definitely like has my heart more than the others, but it was a fun series to revisit.
I finally finished Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I don't think I'll ever be the same human being again afterwards. My God, that game. So I finished the Forgotten Saga. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a weird challenge mode, like gauntlet thing, where you have like procedurally generated random selection of things that you can do. So it's like you go in this area, kill these enemies, and then you get a chest, but the chest isn't the same every time. And so it's like you can get more health, or you can get a magic item, but you basically start off with nothing. You start off with basic gear, and then you go in and you have to try and collect gear, and then you have to make your way through each area. Mm-hmm. I think the first area is like frozen with Jotuns, and then you fight either a boar or a wolf. And then the next area is fire with a bunch of muspels and also some idiot with a horn that then sets you on fire like midway through. He basically blows a horn and it sets off these fire traps that then you've got to try and like rush through before they kick in, otherwise it makes it way harder. Or you can buy these favor things, and one of them is to stop him blowing his horn.
Yeah, I always bought that one.
Yeah, me too. Every time.
Yep.
And then you fight Nidhogg, a giant dragon. Mm-hmm. I think.
Well, first you fight the other guy.
Oh, yeah, Laser Eyeball Man. Mm-hmm. I don't know who he is.
He's like a big skeleton or Draugr.
Yeah, he's like a big, like, Draugr thing with a laser eyeball. Mm-hmm. It's a ball that he throws at you to start off with, and then it turns into a laser eyeball.
Yes.
Then the next area is filled with druids and poison, and then you get to Nidhogg, who's an idiot dragon. He's just, big and hits like a truck and has some
several phases.
Several phases, silly mechanics. Like, he's dead. He's not dead. There's a bunch of Jotuns that are now going to run across the battle arena and throw themselves into his corpse and revive him. Okay. Of course they are. Mm-hmm. This makes sense. Maybe in Norse mythology, it makes sense. But at that point, I was like, I have to kill this guy without using healing shrines? This is silliness.
Mm-hmm.
And so you kill him, and then you go on to Hell's area, which is like this tower, basically. And you kind of have to go up through all the floors, and then you fight her at the end. And basically, the entire DLC is just you trying to retrieve your son's soul.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, by the way, I'm spoiling everything.
Well, I mean, that's not a secret. Like, the whole point, the thing that is told to you at the beginning is that
the
you're
spoiler
after him.
is, you get to the end, and he goes, no, I'm not coming with you. There's a reason why I'm here. I'm not going to tell you the reason, but I'm going to make you lose your memory so that you go back to the beginning and do the whole thing again and again and again and again and again and again. And it's... I don't know why they felt the need to include this, like, in the form that they did.
Yeah.
Like, if they wanted to tell the story of Odin trying to retrieve Baldur's soul, why didn't they just, make a few quests in Ragnarok or something?
Mm-hmm.
And just have that be at the end and the conclusion? But no, I know, challenge mode.
Yes,
Random gauntlet challenge mode.
Roguelite and roguelikes are really popular, and so we need to have that.
I'm just no.
I know, it didn't need it. It was...
And so I went through that. You have to go through each area like 3 or 4 times to do all the quests.
Mm-hmm.
And you finally get that all done. Then there's like beat Nidhogg without using these healing shrines. And so you have to kind of get a good weapon that will heal you or some abilities. And so, like, having decent armor, I did it without getting the really good dwarf armor, which gives you, like, health back every time you kill someone, because I didn't realize that was a thing, because the guide I used didn't tell me until the bottom after I'd finished. In one of the comments said, this armor might be useful. And I'm like, oh, great, thanks. But yeah, I got that done. I was like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Another waste of time in an already bloated mess of a game. And then mastery challenges.
Oh, God, help us.
I think there's only been one challenge mode I've hated more, and that was Dunwall City Trials. The only redeeming quality of this mastery challenge stupid mode is the enemies all spawn in the same place every run.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get a good feel for where they're going to be and like what order to do things in. But it wasn't just complete all the challenges, it was complete all the challenges and do all of the specific little things they wanted you to do in each challenge perfectly, as in all 3 in one run.
Yep.
So one of them was kill enemies with fire, kill enemies with gravity, and I can't remember what the last one was, but it was like, parry a bunch of times.
Yep.
So I never used parry in the main game, so I had to teach myself that mechanic to even be able to do it.
Yep, because you don't need to do it in the main game. It's not a mechanic that you need to know.
I just used a shield that, like, when you blocked people, or I guess perfect block, which is kind of like a parry, gives you health back. But I was like, this is horrendous. Because the mechanics aren't precise enough for you to be able to pull things off the way they want you to. The worst ones were trying to kill enemies with headshots or hit weak points. So you'd aim for the person's chest weak point, and they'd shoot them in the head and kill them. So you'd have to shoot them in the groin to hit them in the chest. And hope that the game didn't auto-aim onto their head.
Yep.
And so they didn't just make one set of these challenges, they made 2, because they thought, great, everyone loved the first set, let's make another one.
Let's have more.
Whoa.
And worse. And the same kinds of things. It's like,
yeah,
it was a lot of those same requirements.
It was that last wolf challenge with this like enemy that spawns multiple copies of herself that you have to hit the weak points on, that was just horrendous.
Yep.
And I was shouting at it.
Yeah. And the whole thing about it is that you have to do it perfectly or nearly perfectly. Like they don't leave a lot of room for error.
They actually reduced the number of headshots on one of the challenges where you had to get 27 out of 27. They reduced it to 25 out of 27.
That's nice.
You did the 27 out of 27.
That's nice for you.
It's like the Watch Dogs challenge with the drinking game. I did the original hard version of that, and you did the easy version.
After
easy
they patched
version
it.
in air quotes.
Yeah, it was still challenging.
Yeah, but
it was worse when you did it. It was like nearly impossible when you did it.
Yeah, on TA I was the 5th person to complete like 100% the the release version of Watch Dogs.
Yeah. 1. Yeah. Madness.
Because I got that challenge done. Yeah, but no, I was so annoyed with it. And then Minecraft had an update. And so it took away my completion. I was like, nice, I've got 396 or 97 completions. And then update hits. And I'm like, really? Really, Minecraft? Fine. I'll go and finish you off, and then I'll finish Valhalla afterwards. I think that's the order I did it in, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it didn't steal my completion, but it stole one of my completions, because Minecraft was complete, then it wasn't complete. So I finished that, then I did Valhalla. Or like I had a break in between, then I finished Valhalla. But it was just like, okay, here's 2 relatively simple achievements. Find an egg, make a creature, follow stupid creature around while it sniffs for a seed, plant seed. I'm like, okay, why is this a thing, Minecraft? Like, really? I don't understand.
Just to give you more tasks.
And then the last achievement is find these 8 trims and put them on your armor. They spawn randomly. In chests.
Yeah, I recall you doing that. And the amount of anger that you had when we spoke.
Most of them were okay. It was like they had like a 20% chance of spawning. What you can do with Minecraft is you get a spawn, you get a seed. So a seed is like the number that they use to generate a world. And so you can use that seed to generate that world specifically on that update. Mm-hmm. The seeds change per update, so you won't quite get the same world. So you put the seed in and say, this guy found the item that you need in this specific spot. You can put that seed in, generate that world, go to that point, find the thing. There was one, I think the silence trim that I needed had a 1% chance of spawning in the lowest part of the world in these like really dark city areas. There's 20 chests. I think I went through like 200 of them before I found the damn thing. And I was already like frustrated with Valhalla. Yeah. And then I had that on top of it. And I was like, I'm just so fed up with these DLCs. Because like you do the base game, it's complete. And then title update, bye-bye completion. And so that's the curse of doing 100%, is that sometimes you're just never free.
Yeah, and they keep adding things that, number one, don't add any enjoyment to a game. Mm-hmm. And number two, then you feel like you have to do them in order to get your 100% back.
Yeah. Oh, and the other thing is, the achievement description is wrong.
Oh, that's fun.
So there's more than 8 trims. 2 of the trims that they say that you need, you don't need, you need 2 of the other ones. Mm. So it was like, one of the ones that I found that I should have needed, I didn't need. And then I had to go and find 2 different ones. And they added this new mechanic in, where there's these like ruins that you can go to. And you have to brush gravel or sand to get the item out of it. And so I went in creative mode, found these gravel and sand patches, and started brushing them for 2 hours to find the trims that I needed. I got 6 trims that I didn't need brushing gravel and sand. So to add to, I've been chasing paper and stacking rocks, I've now been brushing sand and gravel.
Isn't this a fun way to spend your free time? Chasing paper, stacking rocks, and brushing gravel.
Or sand, just to mix it up a little.
Or sand. Brushing gravel.
I think it was actually gravel. I think that the particular ruins that I
boy.
was having to go through was gravel. So brushing gravel.
I can't. Have I said lately how happy I am that I didn't play Minecraft, that I never started that I played the demo and was like, I don't like this, and never played it again?
Yeah, but I'm also an insane person because I decided to have a break from my main account.
Yeah.
And play my alt account for fun.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get into that later because you have some more stuff you need to discuss.
So many more things.
But I did some more Minecraft. Anyway.
Ay. But hey, you got your Assassin's Creed Valhalla totally done now. It's complete.
Yeah.
Never to be touched or heard from again. It's now the game that shall not be named.
I think my final thoughts for Valhalla is it was way too bloated for what it needed to be. The main, present day plot, I don't really understand what they're doing with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost felt like they took a step backwards in several regards, where it was like, Odyssey, you didn't have to do absolutely everything. Valhalla, you had to do absolutely everything. And then those mastery challenges literally felt like trying to get 100% sync again, like they did in the originals, or like the more original.
Brotherhood and onwards. Until
Black Flag.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, did we have 100% sync in Unity?
I don't think so.
No. Unity and Forward, they took that out.
Oh, Rogue. Rogue would be the last one.
Rogue had them, yeah.
I think, the Xbox... I mean, Unity might have done. I've kind of buried that one.
Right.
But it's either Unity or Rogue are the last ones that had the 100% sync. It really felt like that. And I was like,
yeah,
you got rid of this for a reason.
Mm-hmm, because it's not fun.
And so, anybody that wants to 100% Valhalla, don't.
Don't. Unless you just really like that sort of thing, right? Like, yeah, I guess there are people who like it, and
I would say play it on PlayStation, get the plat, and then don't worry about the DLCs.
Yeah.
That are the title updates. Yeah. Because the story DLCs were good enough.
Mm-hmm. Like Ragnarok and... But
get it on a sale.
Yeah. Yeah. The Wrath of the Druids, the Siege of Paris, and Ragnarok.
That is one game...
Forgotten Saga, the story element was alright, but just the way that they implemented it was not the best thing they could have chosen to do.
True.
So, congratulations!
Woo!
You got that done.
I did.
You did. Meanwhile, while you were doing that, I was trying to figure out how to pronounce the title of Gris. And
not the country.
Not the country.
Or the oil.
Or the oil. The game. Is it Gris? Is it Gris? But it's Gris, apparently. As far as I can tell, it's pronounced Gris. Because it means gray. And the idea is a cool little platformer, where it's similar in tone to something like Journey, where there's not a whole lot of dialogue or anything like that happening, and it's more visual storytelling of a person going through a personal journey. And in this one, it's this girl whose world has kind of shattered following the death of her mother, and all of the color gets sort of sucked out of the world, and so everything is gray. And then you go on these little journeys to bring different colors back into the world. So the first one, I think, as you're going also through your stages of grief. And so the first one I think is blue or red. I think the first one is red, and then the second. I think
it might be red.
I think the first one is red, and the second one is blue or green, and then the next one is...
Because I saw someone else stream it, and I think it was red.
Yeah. No, it's definitely red. So the first one's red, the second one is green, I believe, then blue, then yellow. And as you go through these different sections, there's different mechanics that get added in. So in one section you learn to make yourself heavy, and in one section, and then there's platforming elements that are to do with that, and then in one section you learn to double jump, and then there's sections that are to do with that, and then another section you learn how to swim in these watery things. So like water, they'll have like waterfalls, and you can, if you get inside of it, you can swim upward, you know. So it's not necessarily following the logic of real world physics, right? So, you know, if you get into a section on the 2D space that has water, you can move in different directions within that. So
it's meant to be a representation of someone's journey, so...
Yes. So, it's just cool. I liked how they added in different mechanics each section, and each section wasn't very lengthy, so it always felt like you were having a fresh part to the gameplay that then complemented the part of the emotional journey that this person is on, and, you know, culminates in, you know, returning all of the color back to the world, and, you know, I guess reaching acceptance and moving on from that loss.
Was it better than In Between?
Oh, yes.
Good.
In Between was a good, like, narratively. In Between was not fun to play.
No, it was horrendous. And then when it decided not to save my game,
it made it worse. But no, this one, the mechanics worked really well. It was beautiful in terms of the art style. I really liked that. It was like a watercolor painting kind of thing.
That's cool.
As the colors come back in, and it was just very graphically striking, and that style really worked for it. And the platforming, all of the mechanics just worked really well, and it wasn't super difficult, right? So I guess there were moments where it was kind of like, what does it want me to do? Because it didn't really tell you a lot of the time that, oh, you should do this. So there's a section, for example, where it gets cold, and it'll go through these waves of like, it's cold, and so it freezes you, and it'll freeze like a version of you, and then but you have to make yourself into the like heavy version, which is a square, in order to then, once that freezes, you can jump out and it's still there for a second, and then you can jump on top of it and use it to platform.
Oh, interesting.
Right? So, but it doesn't tell you that that's what you're supposed to do. You just kind of have to figure out with trial and error that that's what you're supposed to do. So it gives you clues and cues, but there is an element of it which is trying to figure out, okay, it's giving me these tools. Now, how do I use them to solve this problem?
Do you think that's part of the metaphor?
Potentially, yeah. So like trying to figure out things, and I do like that it doesn't necessarily handhold you.
Yeah.
It gives you those cues, and then you kind of figure it out, and nothing is too hard. Like, honestly, that was probably the hardest for me section that I can remember in where I was like, what do I do here in order to progress? I think everything else was fairly intuitive. And once you see it, they do a good job with tutorializing everything as well. Mm-hmm. So it's like it shows you how to use this thing, and then you need to use that element, right? And then you need to use that element later on. And so it was a really good game. I enjoyed it a lot. I liked the themes. I liked the art style. I thought the gameplay was good. It was short. It was fun. I recommend it. Gris.
I bought it on your recommendation because it was on sale.
Right. I mean, I bought it when it was on sale too. I had heard good things about it, but I hadn't purchased it yet, and then it was on sale, and I was like, I want to do something a little bit different, so I bought it and I played it. The next thing that I did was my point of frustration for that month. Crysis Remastered. So Crysis it came out, I think, in like 2007, 8, sometime around then, originally. And it was one of these games where it was really hard on the technical specs for the time. So there was the whole thing of like, can your computer run Crysis? Was the meme, I guess, at the time. Because it was known to be like one of the most technically complex and high-end games at the time. As first-person shooter, and it's cool. It's got a lot of like open world elements to it, especially in the first 2/3 of the game, where you're on an island and you have these objectives, and you can go into it using stealth, or you can go into it using guns blazing. You have some optional objectives that you can do, and then sometimes you can complete objectives in various orders. So you have a little bit of free roam that you can do around the island as you're trying to save this group of scientists. And it also has this kind of supernatural element to it, where the scientists have uncovered something on the island, and the North Koreans are trying to get it. And so they've captured these scientists, and you're with the American Marines or government, and you're trying to rescue these scientists and then also secure what they've found and not let the Koreans get it. And so what they've uncovered is this whole like alien thing that has been frozen for a long time in stasis, and it gets woken up, and that's bad. And that leads into the last, 1/3 of the game, where it's more heavily based on that, and you're no longer fighting the Koreans as much. You're fighting what was unearthed.
Interesting.
Right? And so it's a cool little story. It's a cool little first person shooter, an interesting sci-fi story, and the shooting mechanics still work really well even now. Like, it's aged very well in that sense. So it was cool to go back and replay. The graphics, definitely you can tell, like, at the time they were amazing for that time. Now they're not as impressive, even the remastered version, which has improved those. But the point of frustration for me was, the achievements were broken.
Yeah.
So things didn't unlock when they were supposed to unlock. When I picked up the turtle,
was it
a beach,
known bug, or was it like Xbox was having a brain fart?
I think it's flagged as buggy.
But I mean, they do that with like every game these days.
Well, yeah, but I think that this one, there was a lot of posting on forums and stuff about how things didn't unlock. So I don't think it was just an Xbox was having a problem. I think it's a problem with the game. But, I would complete a chapter, and then the achievement for completing that chapter wouldn't unlock. And I picked up a turtle, and it was like,
yeah,
you were supposed to get an achievement for picking up a creature, an animal, and that didn't unlock. And I'm like, ugh, dang it. luckily, the achievements for the difficulty all worked. And so all I needed to do at the end was go back and play through a couple of chapters to get those chapter unlocks. And then I deleted my local save and started on a fresh save and picked up the turtle again at the beginning, and that one unlocked, and then I was able to re-download my cloud save to get my progress back from completing the game on the hardest difficulty. But yeah, it's still also still frustrating. Also, the hardest difficulty is hard. There are some sections where it's hard to get through. At least I found it to be. Stealth is definitely helpful. You can sneak past and avoid a lot of encounters, particularly if you're not trying to get all of the optional objectives, but I was, because I was trying to do it all in one run. But if you're not doing all of the optional encounters and if you're not trying to get kills and stuff like that, if you're just doing a hard difficulty run, you can skip a lot of things by using the cloak, which is awesome. But when you do have to engage in a firefight, really difficult. Final boss, really hard. At least I found it to be. And so, definitely a challenging game, and I was very, very happy that my difficulty-related achievements unlocked without issue, because that would have been very, very frustrating to have to go back and replay on the hardest difficulty again and hope.
Yeah, that would have sucked.
And hope that they unlocked is the thing, right? Because it's like, if they're glitched, then you have no guarantee that if you go back and replay it, that it'll unlock the second time. It's just a toss-up, right? So
it's like when I was playing through that Bitter Isle DLC for Dragon's Dogma, and it just wouldn't, it didn't unlock the final boss, Uber version.
Yeah.
The first time I killed it.
Yeah.
And what I didn't realize was I could have just quit, and it would have, my save was just before the boss fight.
Right.
So I left the room and then ran through the whole thing.
Yeah.
But you have to kill him on the normal version and then kill him on the hard version.
Yeah.
And it's just like, Xbox needs to sort its achievement system out, but they never will at this point.
Yeah. Well, and to have developers make things that work. Don't make broken shit. Because there is nothing more frustrating than...
It'll be fine.
Yeah, there is nothing more frustrating than doing something difficult and having it not give you the achievement or trophy for doing it.
Yeah.
There is nothing that is more frustrating than that. Doing the difficult thing can be frustrating, but doing the difficult thing and then not getting the reward for it, way worse.
And that's the trouble I have with Xbox now, is that it's done it in so many games, because it's not always the game that's the problem, it's their servers having a glitch and such, which I've never really had on PlayStation.
Right.
They just unlock pretty much 100% of the time, unless it's a known, bugged game.
Right.
And you just are, paranoid.
Yeah.
Because if something takes more than a second to unlock, you're like, is this going to unlock?
Yeah.
Oh, no, there it is. You were saying about one of the games that you were playing where it's the unlock time was long.
Yeah.
And you were like, did it unlock? Minecraft is like that all the time because the game chugs.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know whether it's because I'm playing on Xbox One or whether the newer version of Minecraft just plays better on the better consoles, or it's just the Bedrock version of Minecraft doesn't play well on Xbox, whatever one you've got.
Right.
But it's I can hear my fan kicking in on my Xbox every time I move, from a chunk to another chunk, and it's loading in. I'm like, oh, for God's sake, Minecraft, are you really this intense?
It's because it has so much that they've added to it, probably.
Well, they've increased the depth and the height of the world, and it's if it's loading in those chunks, then it's loading in another 200 blocks deep.
Yeah, so it's got
like 100 blocks or 70 blocks.
Got a
like
lot that it's trying to load and render at once, and that can be problematic.
And my Xbox is tired because I kind of half murdered it playing State of Decay.
So yeah. So anyway, I got Crysis done. It was fun to revisit it. You know, I think that it's maybe not aged as gracefully as some other things, but it was still a fun playthrough. And it was nice to it's been nice, I guess, to like revisit some of these games that I've played before, but it's been a long time since I played them, you know, because I didn't remember the story of that game very well at all. Like, I remembered running through the jungle and using the cloak and that there were aliens, and that was about it. And so it was cool to go back and replay that and, you know, experience the story again. So that was Crysis and my Crysis for the month.
Yep. We're all gonna have one.
Yeah, we do. And then we went to probably my favorite thing that I played last month, which was a little indie title called Citizen Sleeper. It was a game that came out last year, and I had read lots of good things about it. And so it was one that was on Games Pass that I definitely knew that I wanted to try out. And it was so fun. It was this sci-fi, almost like a tabletop role-playing game, because it had this D6 dice system that you rolled at the beginning of every day, in game day, and they gave you, like, rolled the dice for the day, and then the dice determined how well you could accomplish things throughout the day. So you play as a sleeper, which is someone's personality that's been uploaded into an android body so that the android can work for a corporation, while the person whose personality has been uploaded into the android, their real body and their real self is in cryosleep.
Interesting.
And they earn money based on that. And so it's like, I'm going to basically sell myself, quote unquote, into indentured servitude for a number of years while my body sleeps. And then when I wake up, I will have earned money for doing that without my actual self having to ever experience it. And the copy of me that was created and put in the android to do this work will be destroyed.
Wow.
And so you play as one of these androids. I know, right? Like, it's a cool concept.
The question is, do sleepers dream of electric sheep?
They dream of electric craziness, for sure. And so you play as one of these sleepers, one of these androids that has escaped from the company that was, you know, enslaving it, I guess. And made it to this space station. And you're trying to figure out, number one, how to get the company off of your tail, because you have a tracking device inside of you so that they can track down their property. And so basically it's trying to figure out how to deactivate that / get it out of you / fool them into thinking that you're dead, etc., etc. So you're trying to do that, or to get as far away from the area of space where they have jurisdiction. So if you can get far enough away from them, maybe they won't come after you. It won't be cost effective for them to keep pursuing you, right?
Right.
And so you're on this space station and you meet a bunch of different characters on the space station who all have different goals that they're trying to achieve, with basically like how the stations run, or trying to make a bar and sort of set themselves up. And then there's other people who are trying to, with like hydroponics, who are trying to like grow food. And there's different kind of leadership factions within the space station that are sort of trying to get control. There's different corporate influences that are happening from sort of outside the space station. And basically, you're meeting these characters and choosing different things to do with each of them. And there are different ways that you can either leave the space station, and so there's different endings based on leaving, or staying on there. And if you choose to stay, then you can pursue either a different ending, or you can just stay and play and just be on the space station and create a life for yourself there. And so it has at least 6 or 8 endings.
Oh, nice.
And they're not all mutually exclusive. Like a lot of them, if you choose an ending where you leave the space station, you can reload and start that day over again, and then make the other choice where you stay on the space station. And if you choose to stay on the space station, then the game continues and you can pursue the other endings. So what you can do is, if it comes to a choice where it's like leave or stay, you can choose to leave first, then reload, then stay, then do another set of endings, do the leave choice for that one, and then reload, and then stay, and then go to the next set of endings and do the leave choice and then stay. And there's only a couple of them that are mutually exclusive, and you'd have to do another playthrough or two for. But it was a really cool setting. It was very heavily like text based, so it was a lot of something that I don't like in games a lot of times. It was a lot of reading. Because there was no real dialogue or anything in it. It was all, you read the story of what was happening in the descriptions and what people were saying and this, that, and the other. But I didn't mind it because that was what it was. It wasn't another game with other gameplay mechanics and then there's suddenly a textbook that I have to read. Right? So it was a cool setting. I liked the characters. I really liked the choices and stuff. That it felt like interesting aspects of exploring like what it means to be a person and what kinds of goals you have and morality and what you'll do in order to get what you want. There was a lot of cool explorations of stuff like that. And the dice system was really cool, where you had to eat, and you had to have basically, oh gosh, it's hard to explain. Basically, you're degrading. So like your body is degrading, and so you have to have this drug that keeps your body from falling apart and keeps your mind from falling apart. That's been built into the androids as sort of a fail-safe mechanism by the corporation, so that they can't survive.
The lysine contingency.
Exactly. So that they can't survive if the corporation isn't supplying them with this drug. And so you have to figure out how to get some and or how to make it yourself in order to continue to exist. And if you don't eat and if you do things that are taxing, you'll degrade further, and then you get fewer dice each day, so you can do fewer things each day. And so it gets to a point where you can't really do a whole lot. It's never like a fail state. I don't think. You never actually die, but it gets to a point where it's a lot harder to do anything because you're only getting one action that you can do in a whole day.
Oh dear.
And so you have to get a dose of that drug in order to refill it. And even if you're not doing taxing things, it degrades over time. But there are things that you can do and perks and stuff that you can get that help negate that. And it was cool because I basically got it to a point where I could always stay at maximum health. Like, I was replenishing all of my stuff myself because I was growing my own food. Yeah, self-sufficiency. I was growing my own food, and I was able to grow the components and make that drug for myself and use other scrap components to be able to keep myself at maximum effectiveness, which was cool. So anyway, that was a long description of...
You can tell that you enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed it. It was a fun game. It was a really cool... It makes me want to play like a sci-fi TTRPG, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's just... It's a fun, like, setting to explore. And cool mechanics that they used. So, Citizen Sleeper. Recommend. It was fun.
So I took a break from achievement hunting on my main account and decided, I don't know why, but to play some games that I haven't played in a while, but on my old account, just to be able to get some of the achievements. Mm-hmm. So I played Fable Anniversary, which I played the entire game, did everything, got every achievement except for the one discontinued one.
Yeah.
So I can't actually 100% that on my alt account. But my alt account has a completion percentage of like 35%. So I really didn't care. I was like, whatever.
You wanted to do as much as you could.
Yeah, and like I hadn't played Fable in a long time, and they did the whole like announcement for the new Fable that made my brain go, oh yeah, I haven't played Fable in forever. I'll go play that. And so I did.
Yeah.
I played a little bit of Viva Pinata Trouble in Paradise because I was like, Viva Pinata, that was fun back in the day. I'll go and play that for a little bit. Sunk a few hours into that. Just did some of the basic stuff at the start, and then I was like, I think I'd like to play Flame in the Flood again. I don't know why I like that game so much. I think it's just like it's procedurally generated to a point.
Yeah.
There's a main story or there's like endless mode. And I just kind of decided that I wanted to play through it, get some achievements, and then ended up getting pretty much every achievement in the game except for the two, like survive endless mode for 100 days. Or no, travel 100 miles in endless mode, travel 200 miles in endless mode, and use the motor for 20 miles. Because I was like, I don't want to do that. So I did everything else.
Yeah.
Except I had like one achievement glitch on me and I had to do another run, and that took some prep. But yeah, I just enjoy that game as a like go-to to just play through and see what happens in that run, like which places you find, which NPCs you find to talk to, and just to chill out. And then I decided to play some more Minecraft on my alt account because I had done some previously and I'd used it to help my other account out back in the day with certain things. And so I decided, I think I'll try and get my ratio on my alt account to like 2.3 because I don't have that on my main. My main's like 2.19, and so I hit that. Oh, I did a little bit of Zoo Tycoon as well. I forgot about that. I was like, so Zoo Tycoon, I haven't played that in a while, and that was fun. And so I was just like jumping around between games just because. So I did do plenty.
Yeah.
I just didn't do it on my main account.
Right.
And it's games that I did Fable Anniversary, I did Flame in the Flood, I did a good bit of Minecraft, I did a little bit of Zoo Tycoon, and so I got my ratio to 2.31 or 3.2, and then I hit 47,000 gamer score on my old account, dead on. And I was like, at some point I'll hit 50, I'll play like 3 games, get 3,000. Get like 20 completed games on there. Just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
And just for the feel of like, this isn't overly taxing.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to hit any particular goals. I'm just kind of, well, I am trying to hit goals, but not like they have any kind of constraints on them. It's like, I'll just play some stuff that I feel like playing.
Yeah.
And it just kind of felt nice and kind of liberating to be back at achievement hunting when I first did it years ago, because I started on my original account. It's called Warsome, just because.
Yeah.
Until I played like Halo Wars and then got one achievement and really didn't like the game and was like, I'll start a new account. And so I did, because I was only like 40,000 G in, if that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I created my new account, which is I'm Praetorian, and the rest, as they say, is history.
The rest of the 450,000 gamer score is history.
I don't have 450,000.
You're close, though. Yeah.
I have 400. I only just hit 440.
Okay. The rest of the 440,000 gamer score is history.
It is. It's a long road.
Yeah. It's nice, though, that you took a little break after some frustrating things to just kind of enjoy playing. I'm just so without burnt pressure
out at the moment with my main accounts and trying to figure out what I want to do going forward. Yeah. But also feel like I'm doing something.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I did for the rest of my month.
Cool. So for the rest of my month, because Citizen Sleeper I completed on the 15th. So
midway through.
All of that stuff. Life is Strange. Life is Strange Before the Storm. True Colors. Gris. Crysis. And Citizen Sleeper all happened in the first 2 weeks of June. And so then after that, I played another Games Pass game that came out last year that had a lot of acclaim, I guess. So I wanted to check it out. It was called Norco. And it was weird.
Yeah. I finished Valhalla on the 14th, and that's when I stopped.
Yeah. And so the rest of your month was other
stuff.
Account. Yeah. So Norco is a point-and-click adventure that's set in, oh gosh, I want to say New Orleans. I can't 100% remember. Well, I guess it's set in Norco. I think that's the name of the place. So, but I think it's Louisiana. And so it's this kind of post-apocalyptic, I guess, future thing where there's been a lot of war and the area is kind of war-torn, and they have things like androids and stuff like that. And they also have this thing where you can upload your memories into a computer.
Okay.
Kind of a thing. So it's futuristic, but then also like post-apocalyptic, but that's not a huge, I guess. It's not like Fallout where you're trying to survive. It's more you're coming home after being away for a long time. Your character's mother has died of cancer while you were away. Right. And she's trying to find her brother. And she finds out that her brother and her mother are wrapped up in this thing where some kind of object or entity has been found, and the oil company that exists in this area that kind of runs things there is trying to get it, and was trying to use your mom and now maybe your brother in order to get it. And then there's other people in play that are also trying to get it, and you're trying to figure out what it is, how it's connected to your mom, how it might be connected to your mom's death, how it's connected to your brother, and trying to find him. And it was very strange in terms of the actual narrative and what happened, but it was an enjoyable enough point and click adventure with an interesting like mystery that you were trying to solve. It had the sort of, I don't even know how to say it, like 64-bit graphics or something like that. They were a little bit blocky, but it's not like
16.
It's not like 8-bit, but it's, yeah.
It might be 16-bit. It might be the next one on.
Yeah. So it had that kind of graphics where they were a little bit blockier. And then the narrative itself was pretty interesting. So I definitely didn't enjoy that one as much as Citizen Sleeper. They were very different kinds of games, but they were both really story-driven, narrative-driven kinds of games. But I would say, and they were both sort of futuristic kinds of games, but I would definitely say I enjoyed Citizen Sleeper a lot more than I did Norco, but I can understand where that story is maybe appealing to certain folks. It's certainly interesting in terms of the mystery aspect of it. So I played that one and enjoyed that. And then I played another Games Pass game. I was on a little Games Pass kick at that point, and so I played.
You've got it, so you
yeah,
might as well
exactly.
use it.
So I played another.
Things change all the time,
exactly.
So you don't know what's going to stay and what's going to go.
So I definitely wanted to play Citizen Sleeper and Norco. Those were two that were on my list of I really want to play these, and both of them had been out about a year at this point. And so, you know, the average length that something that's not Microsoft first party owned stays on Games Pass is maybe about a year. And so I wanted to make sure that I played those before they have the possibility of going off of Games Pass. So I definitely wanted to do those. Then I saw this other game that appealed to me called Ravenlok. And it appealed to me because it is an Alice in Wonderland game. And I like Alice in Wonderland.
Funny that.
I know, my tag is Dormouse. Go figure. And Alice 2183.
I was going to say, and Alice.
Right? And so, yeah, it was an Alice in Wonderland themed game. You go into, the way that you get there is you go through the looking glass, right? Like you go through the mirror. And you get to this world, and you meet the White Rabbit, and it very much strays away from calling things the what they are in Alice in Wonderland. So it's not the Queen of Hearts or the Red Queen, but the enemy very much is. That's who she's supposed to be. Right, yeah. So they remove it.
They're skirting around copyright.
Yeah, exactly. They're skirting around some of that, but it absolutely is. You know, you have the mice, you have the White Rabbit, you've got the rabbit that does the tea, right?
Mm-hmm.
The tea party, and so there's that's there.
Mad Hatter.
Yes, you've got the Hatter as well, because you got to save him.
Do you know why the Mad Hatter is mad?
Yeah, because of the mercury and the stuff
in the hat making process.
Yep. So you've got all of the major characters, right, that you would expect from Alice in Wonderland, and it's very, it's colorful, and it's got that element of sort of fantasy. And basically, the queen is the oppressor of all of these people, and you're having to go through and help them, help save them from her. And it has kind of American McGee's Alice / Alice Madness Returns vibes, but it's not as dark as that.
Like somewhere in between the two.
It's somewhere in between, but it has kind of that vibe to it a little bit, where you're going in and you're trying to save this world from someone who is oppressing the rest of them and has kind of corrupted some of the creatures that are there. And so it was little hack and slash were the mechanics, right? So you had little weapons and stuff that you got, and you kind of went through the areas and leveled up and got upgrades and like bombs and things that you could make or buy, and abilities and stuff that you unlocked as you played through. It was pretty short. It was probably like 6 hours ish.
It's not too bad
for the whole game. Yeah, so it felt like if it had been longer than that, I think it would have been problematic, but I think it was a good length. It had a good variety of different areas and stages and characters and abilities that you unlocked throughout that 6-hour time period, that kept it feeling fresh throughout. Very similar to like Gris. It's not as good as Gris. Gris is a much better game. But similar.
You still enjoyed it.
Yeah, similar to that in the sense that it always felt like you were getting a new mechanic and something new, and it was short enough so that everything kept feeling fresh, right? And it never felt grindy. And I liked that. I liked that about it. And obviously I liked the subject matter and the themes and stuff that they had within it. So I enjoyed it. It was a good time. It had way too many achievements. Like it had like for the length of it, it had 50 achievements, and it was so weird because it would be like you'd beat a boss and you'd get 3 achievements back to back. It would be like beat this boss, finish this area, and get this piece of the heart. And all 3 of those things happened from beating that boss. So you just got all of them.
Yeah, it's like, why don't you just reduce your achievement count down to like 20?
Exactly. It is like, you could have gotten 1 achievement for that. I mean, it's fine. It adds to my achievement count, I guess. But I just thought that was really weird. It's like, you don't need to have 3 achievements for effectively the same thing.
Yeah, I always find it strange when you're running through a game and it's like you get an achievement at like every 30 seconds.
Right, yeah. It was very, very odd. But I enjoyed it. It was a good popcorn game, right? Like something fun it's never going to win any awards or anything, but it was fun to play through for the time that it took. So the next things that I did in June toward the end was I completed all the DLC for Dragon Age Inquisition. So I did the Jaws of Hakken DLC, the Descent, and Trespasser. And it was nice to have a little bit of a break in between finishing that game because it was quite long, and then going back and doing the DLC, but not too long of a period of time in between that. I think it was less than a month between finishing the main game and then coming back to the DLC, which is cool. I enjoyed all 3 of those DLCs, actually. They all kind of had interesting narratives that were adjacent to, well, I guess Trespasser is the conclusion, but Jaws of Hakken and The Descent had kind of adjacent stories that were being told that weren't necessarily a part of the main game, but added to the world and everything, which I think is good for a DLC, right? Where it's like, this is a whole new area with a different kind of storyline that doesn't really have a whole lot to do with the main thing. And so it's its own thing. And so it's DLC. Great. That makes sense.
And it doesn't necessarily matter exactly when you do it within the story.
Right.
It's not like you need to do this at this point. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense.
Right. Exactly. So, they made perfect sense to do after the completion of the main story. And so, like, Jaws of Hakken is you are trying to find what happened to the last Inquisitor, which was like a couple of 100 years ago. That Inquisitor vanished, and so you're trying to track down what happened to him, and you meet this whole like tribal cultures that exist in this area, and the Jaws of Hakken, which are a group, a sect of those people, a segment of those people who worship Hakken, which is one of their spirit gods.
They call them like the Avar, or something like that.
Yes, the Avar. That's correct. And so that was cool. It was interesting to see a different sort of religious take on things because of really strong theme throughout the Dragon Age stories, and particularly in Inquisition, and I imagine carrying forward into Dragon Age 4, is the idea of the spirits and what they are, and the gods and what they are, and how people view them differently, and different groups of people view them differently. And so this was another group of people with a different view on what the spirits are and what gods are and what they do and how they interact with people. So that was cool. The Descent is delving into a dwarven ruin and finding out more about the origins of lyrium, which is the kind of source, I guess, of magic, or a source of magic for
it's almost like
the
a
world.
fuel.
Yeah, it's like an amplifier, I guess, or a way to tap into raw magical essence or raw magical power. And so finding out more about lyrium and dwarven history that has been perhaps intentionally erased, which was cool. So not to spoil anything about it, but that's the synopsis. And then Trespasser DLC was the conclusion, right? The conclusion to the Inquisition. And so catching back up after a 2-year time skip with all of the characters and what they've been doing after the events of the main game, and where relationships between each other are at, and who's become the divine, and that sort of thing. So it was neat to sort of catch up with all your old crew, right? And see where their lives, the different directions that their lives have gone in. And a couple of the characters can get married. So if you've romanced Cullen, you can get married to him. And if you've romanced Sarah, you can get married to her. So if your character if that's been your character's main love interest, you can have a wedding, which is kind of neat. And then finding out the conclusion of the Dreadwolf. And again, I don't want to spoil it for anybody. I know this game is 10 years old, but I don't want to spoil that because that's a major thing within the story. So finding out about the Dreadwolf and how that, so he is an elven god, right? And so finding out more about him and his influence and his motivations and what he's doing and how that ties in with the main story, right? So, and there's also the Qunari Tevinter conflict that's also brought into it, which I think is going to be a major thing in Dragon Age 4, right? So it feels very much like that DLC both really wrapped up the events of Inquisition and your characters and such, and also tied into what the next chapter of that story is going to be. It sets up Dragon Age 4 really well, and I'm super interested to see where they're going to go with it, but with the war between the Qunari and the Tevinter and the Dreadwolf and his machinations and what's going on with him and the gods and all of that. Super interested in that. And I don't know why on earth they let it sit for 10 years. Right? Because it felt very much like it had this momentum with that DLC of it's building stuff up and then we're going to go into the next game, and then it's a way long time. And I guess it was just BioWare had a lot of flops.
I would say it's BioWare, EA, and Andromeda, and then they just kind of dissolved a section of BioWare. Yeah,
and Anthem. Because I forget about that sometimes, that Anthem was BioWare, but they had sunk a lot of money and resources, I think, into Andromeda and into Anthem, and both of those games did not perform very well. And so I think that they pulled back on BioWare's budget and resources.
Andromeda released way too early and was really buggy, and Anthem released into a climate that was filled with similar games, didn't do so well, and then got no support.
Yeah. And I think didn't really... It was them doing a different thing. It was BioWare doing a different kind of game than they normally do.
Which, like Fallout 76.
Yeah, and then, unlike Fallout 76, which has been majorly supported by Bethesda, even if it's still not a great game, I don't know. But it's been really supported.
I've heard it's kind of repetitive from someone who's played it recently.
Sure. I mean, it's an MMO. So... repetitive is the name of the game.
But even so, like, grind.
Yeah. So
unnecessary grind.
Yeah. So, like, I think it was them trying to do a Destiny, and in the time when it was like you could just play Destiny, and Destiny was a lot better. And so even though there were aspects of Anthem that were really cool and that I enjoyed, it just didn't, it died and didn't get supported, which was sad. So anyway, I finished Dragon Age Inquisition, got the 100% in that, so finished all the DLCs and had a good time playing through them again and refreshing myself, and I feel like it was a nice time to do that because hopefully Dragon Age 4 is going to come out next year, and so it'll be a little bit more fresh in my mind when that releases, so that's cool. And then the last game that I played last month was another Games Pass game that I decided to check out because it was going off of Games Pass at the end of the month. And so I decided to play it while it was still there. And it was called Road 96. Another point-and-click adventure. First-person point-and-click adventure kind of a thing. Which was really interesting. It told the story of these characters through the eyes of your player character, but your player character changed. So it's in the fictional country where people are being kind of oppressed by their government, and there's an air of rebellion that's going on within the country, and you have a lot of teenagers who are either orphans or in some way drifters who are being taken to this place called the pits, I guess, where they work. They're being forced into forced labor. And so you play as different teenagers. So you'll start as a quote-unquote teen who's on the run trying to get to this place called Road 96, which is the place, it's the road where you can, where it's the border between your country and the other countries, right? So you're trying to get to the border and escape your country. And the border is heavily guarded and policed, and they don't want people getting out. And so you're trying to get around that somehow. So, and there's multiple ways that you can do that. You can like hide inside of a truck and try to hide from the search that's happening. Right. You can climb a mountain, and that's kind of difficult in terms of like, you have to have the stamina to be able to endure that mountain climb because it's hard. Or you can run through a forest while people are chasing you with dogs. Or you can go through this underground tunnel, and some of those exits get cut off. So if you do one of them and successfully complete one of them, you can't do that again. Because it's like they reinforce that security there because someone's escaped.
It kind of sounds like the Prey DLC, where it's like there's one escape pod, or there's one container, or you can only upload yourself once type deal.
Yeah. It is kind of like that, where there are different escape routes, but you can only do some of them one time, and you can fail also. So you have stamina, so you have to rest and you have to eat and drink. And if you aren't able to rest or you can't get enough food, then you'll run out of stamina and you'll get picked up by the police or die.
Interesting.
And so I had my first couple of characters actually died / got arrested because I ran out of stamina and stuff, because you start with random amounts of things and you start in random places. And so it has a set amount of encounters that you encounter in the world. So there are different characters' stories and you observe pieces of them. So you'll see this character is attending a party for the current president of the country. And so you meet them at this party and you see that sort of happening, and then you move on. And then the next part of that character's story you don't see in this playthrough. But your next character that you get sort of after you've either died or escaped with that first character, you start over with a new character, and then you might see the next part of the other person's story. Right? Of the NPCs' stories. Right? And so there's a few different people. There's a drifter girl that you meet, and so you see various parts of her story. There's these two crazy idiots who are thieves who are trying to uncover a plot to kill this newscaster. There's the newscaster herself. There's a truck driver. There's a police officer, and there's a tech genius teenager. And you see different bits and pieces of their stories through the eyes of these different characters as you're trying to get them to Road 96 and escape the country. And after you've done that, after you've successfully gotten to the escape route 6 times, then the story ends.
Interesting.
And you have an end state based on the choices that the other characters have made and how they've interacted with the NPCs. You have an end state of the world. And so the NPCs will either survive or die, and the country will have revolution or not have revolution, depending on the things that you've done throughout the game. So it was really interesting. I thought it was pretty cool. It had a pretty interesting narrative structure to it, and it told a story in a way that I don't think many things do, where it's very non-linear, you know? And your player character doesn't necessarily matter so much. It's how you impact the other people around you that matters more. And I was really invested in some of the NPCs' stories. So I wanted Mama Bear and Papa Bear to get together. I was really invested in that.
Yeah, it's just like it's interesting for the NPCs to be more important than the PCs.
Yeah. It was just, and it worked, right? Because I think that sometimes that doesn't work. But it really worked for this particular game. So I was glad I played it. I was glad I checked it out, you know. It was on Games Pass. It sadly no longer is. But it's a cool, interesting game if you ever get the opportunity to play it. So that was Road 96. And that was basically my month, except for one last thing. Which was...
One last thing.
one last thing, which was I got a wild hair and I decided that I wanted to finish Titanfall 2. And well, actually, I guess the first wild hair was I decided I wanted to go back and play Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, the original version of that on the 360. So I went back and I replayed that. And after I did that, just for fun, not for achievements, not for anything, I just replayed
I wonder
the story.
if anybody else playing old games that they hadn't played in a while,
right?
Influenced you at all.
I don't know. So I went back and I replayed that. And when I did that, I was like, because I played through and I did the little obstacle course at the beginning, right? The shooting range where it was like you had to get it in under a certain amount of time. And I was like,
I've never played it, but I heard you talk about it.
I was like, I wonder if I can still do that. And so I tried, and it took a few tries, but I did. I did it in under the 20-something second cutoff time that you need to do in order for it to say, you can play this on veteran because you're good at shooting. So I did that, and after that, I kind of had that itch of like, I can do that achievement in Titanfall 2, the becomes the master achievement, where you have to do the original training course and get third place on the leaderboard, and it's super hard, or at least it was for me. Like, the timing is very precise, and you have to go through that really perfectly. And back when I played it 3 years ago, I just didn't have the patience to do it, and I got discouraged with it, and I just put it down and didn't come back to it. But I decided to go back to it, and after 5 hours and making my thumbs go numb, I unlocked the achievement and finally got Titanfall 2 completed.
Welcome to the club.
Woohoo! And so I felt happy about that. That was a nice little capstone to my month of crazy playing lots of things. So
it's that feeling I had with Valhalla, where it's like, I am finally done.
Yeah.
With something that was frustrating.
Right, absolutely. So it was nice. It was that little bit of pride, right? Where it's like, I can do things. I can do hard things. I still got it. I can still play video games. I'm still good at stuff. I played a lot of story games that weren't very difficult this month, but I can still play games. So, I don't know. It was just, I don't know why I decided, like, now was the time when I decided that I wanted to do it, but I did. And I did it, and it was cool. So that was my crazy June. Now, the question is halfway through the year. Quick wrap up, quick recap. How are you doing with your year? How do you feel like your year is going so far?
I mean, I feel like I'm close to my 360, to my Xbox goals. I'm at 397 completions out of 400, and I'm working on 398.
Nice.
In the surge at the moment, as of recording.
Nice.
I'm at 99.3 out of my goal of 99.7% completion. I don't know whether I don't think I hit this at the end of June, but I've just hit 440,000 gamer score just into July, so it's still around the
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Around the midpoint of the year. I'm a little behind on PlayStation. I feel I'm only at 7 out of the 20 plats that I was aiming for the year.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done any exclusives yet, and I'm at 62 out of 75 plats, because 75 is Red Dead 2, hopefully.
Yeah.
And I also feel like my perspective on goals is changing, or has definitely changed over the last few years, where I used to care about like how much gamer score I was getting per month or how long games were taking, and now I just don't care.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'll get a game done. I'd like to get this game done.
Mm-hmm.
It takes 3 weeks. I got the game done.
Yeah.
Awesome. Rather than like having all these like constraints on myself, feels very much like doing challenges again, where it's like, I need to play these 5 exclusives. I need to finish this game. And I've also been doing specific like platinums on PSN profiles for like my 3000th trophy. And that was kind of stressful because it was trying to juggle games, because I think we were playing Saints Row 4 and I was trying to do Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and so I left Assassin's Creed Odyssey until we'd finished Saints Row 4, so I knew exactly, like, I got to the point where I needed 2 trophies.
Yeah.
Plus all of the ones we had left in Saints Row 4 before I could get my 3000th.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, with co-op games and stuff, trying to do that specifically was definitely stressful for me.
Yeah.
I still would like to do it. I just don't know where I am with gaming at the moment still. Like, I still feel very transitional from hammering games like I used to to you're hammering games. I'm not really doing a lot. Like, I did half or less of what you did this month.
For this
Case in point by how much you talked about stuff, and I was just like, yeah, did a bit, and I listened.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of like thinking about like gaming going forward, because, you know, halfway through the year, I'll try and hit my goals. If I don't hit all of them, I'm not overly concerned. They're more like guidelines.
Yes. Well, they're goals. They're not directives.
I realize that, but when you're at the start of the year and you're like, these are the things I want to hit, they really feel like you want to hit them.
For sure, yeah.
But it's also like, maybe I made some of them too specific. Like the 5 exclusives. It's not that I don't want to play the exclusives, but I want to be in a good headspace when I play them, because they're supposed to be really good games. You know, I want to play God of War and enjoy it. I want to play Uncharted and enjoy it, because Uncharted 4, as far as I can tell, is probably the worst or joint worst Uncharted game. Not saying it's a bad game,
right?
Just saying in the like spectrum of Uncharted, it's the least strong out of the 5, and also like,
at least in my opinion, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a lot of people's opinions, it felt, in a fair few of people's opinions that I've heard, 4 is like, did it really need to be a thing? I mean, it's Uncharted, that's cool and whatever, but it's like, And like, I want to enjoy Lost Legacy that you bought me for my birthday, however many years ago. I think it was like 2017.
7,000 years ago.
It wasn't 7,000 years ago. And you make me feel bad every time I talk about exclusives. And it's like, damn it, leave me alone.
No, it's okay. You'll have it for when you want to play it.
Yeah. And like, do I think I'll get a like current gen console this year? I doubt it, unless the sales are really good.
Yeah.
Because I just want to keep working through my backlog. My PlayStation backlog is pretty high. My Xbox One isn't. But that's fine, because, you know, nearly 13 years of achievement hunting is going to get through your backlog, especially if you don't have Games Pass and access to those titles. And I don't, because I have too much to play on PlayStation that I really don't feel the need. But yeah, I feel like I'm close to my goals on Xbox. I'm, you know,
you're not far away on PlayStation.
Relatively halfway, although more like a third.
Yeah.
With PlayStation, but I have played longer games like Cyberpunk and Just Cause. I'm not sure.
Nope.
Neither was Mirror's Edge. I mean, it was like 40. Anything above 25 hours, I would say, or 30 hours is a longer game.
Yeah, it's a chunk of time.
And I just would like to figure out what I want to do with gaming going forward, and whether this model that I'm doing at the moment is what I still want to do.
Yeah, trying to figure out what makes you happy, you know?
Yeah.
And
in life in general, that's kind of difficult.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's hard because times have changed, we've changed, gaming has changed, and so trying to have that reset where you are like, okay, well, what I have been doing is no longer making me happy and bringing me joy. So
or potentially even viable with the current state of gaming.
Right. Yeah. And so how do I break myself of old habits and old mindsets and figure out what is going to make me happy moving forward? I think it's totally legitimate. Like it's hard. It's hard to do. I think I'm there to a degree as well. So cool. So you're feeling pretty decent about where you're ending up at the end of June / early July, yeah?
I think so. Yeah.
Good deal. For me, I'm feeling strong, especially after June was a mad month.
Yeah, it sounds like my November's.
Yeah, I generally do not do that much in a month. I don't know that I've ever done that much in a month. Ever.
I'm curious. There might be a month that's close.
Yeah, there might be a month that's close. But between Xbox and PlayStation, I fully completed start to finish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games, 3 DLCs, and then completed the last achievement on Titanfall. Right? So, and I played freaking COD 4.
Right. And I did 2 DLCs on my main and then had a holiday on an alt account.
Right, but you completed another what? 2 plus 3 plus several parts of some more?
Well, I did most of Flame in the Flood. I did a good chunk of Minecraft, I did Fable, so probably 2.5.
Yeah. Plus a little bit of even Pinata and a little bit of Zoo Tycoon. Yeah. Right? So, it's not like you did nothing with that time. It was just not on your main account, right?
Oh, that's something I was going to add to mine, was that I have done a fair bit of, going back and playing games without achievements more than I planned to, and so I think that's probably impacted how, the time that I've spent doing things on my main account, and that might be why I'm a little bit more behind. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. That makes a lot of sense because and it's all about that transition, right? It's what is going to make me happy? Mm-hmm. Is it getting the achievements and the trophies on my main account? Is that what makes me happy? Is that sense of accomplishment and unlocking things and tracking progress and statistics and that sort of thing? Is that what makes me happy? Or is it playing stuff just for the joy of it, right? Or just for the challenge of do I think I can do this?
Yeah. More research is needed, at least on my part.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I would say it was super fun to go back and play a game and not unlock any achievements or anything and just play it. And I played it on easy because, I wanted to just wreck things and experience the story, because the story of Modern Warfare is very strong. It's a good game. COD has a bad reputation, I think now. I guess maybe it's getting a little bit better. I feel like some of their later entries have been stronger, but it has a negative reputation right now for just being it's just this multiplayer juggernaut that makes a ton of money and they don't really care about stories. But back when Modern Warfare 1 and 2, the originals, came out, they were very strong in terms of the story department. And so it was cool to go back and revisit that. So in any case, point was, June was bananas for me, and definitely helped with hitting some of the targets, right, and being like on track with stuff. So I wanted to hit 435,000 gamer score this year, and after last month, I am at 425 and a half. So I've got about 9,500 left to go, which is more than 50% of my target from the year, right? So it was,
you and I have about 10,000 to hit our goals.
Yeah. And so it was 23,000 was the increase that I need for the total year, and at the end of June I'd done 13 and a half. So more than halfway there for that one, so definitely on target. As far as platinums, I wanted to hit 50, and I'm at 41 right now. And so that was 9 out of 18, so exactly halfway there in terms of platinums. For playing games that are on my backlog, I wanted to play 25 games on my backlog, and I've done 12. And so a little slightly behind on that one, but very close to halfway on that one. And then the other goals I've smashed. So Games Pass, I wanted to play at least 10 games. I've done 9. And I wanted to do the DLCs for Assassin's Creed, Resident Evil 6, and Horizon Zero Dawn, and I did all those in January. So those were done long ago.
Nice to have one of your goals done.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so yeah, I feel really good about like my progress so far this year in terms of where I'm at and where I want to be. I also experienced a moment of like letting go of something, in terms of goals, because I had planned to do Rise of the Tomb Raider for my 40th platinum.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was playing Dragon Age Inquisition back in May, and I was like, I'm going to finish this and then I'm going to head straight into Rise, and I don't know that I want to do that, and Rise is going to be a long completion as well, and I just wasn't feeling it. And so I just was like, you got to let it go. You just got to let it go.
I did exactly the same with 50.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'm getting close to being like at 50 plats.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do Red Dead as my 50th. And I was like, this just isn't feasible. And I was a good portion of the way through Doom Eternal. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm going to have to stop Doom Eternal and then move to Red Dead and do 250 hours of Red Dead?
Of Red Dead.
That's like, am I going to enjoy that? Am I going to be frustrated? We were and are going to do the multiplayer together. And so I was like, I don't even know if Dormouse is ready. And so I just went, I'll do Doom. I did Doom Eternal instead.
Mm-hmm.
It had a good plat because my tag is Iron War Machine, and the plat for Doom Eternal is Heavy Metal.
Nice.
And I was like, it fits.
Yeah. And so it's very similarly, it was coming up. Dragon Age Inquisition was going to be my 39th. And then I don't know. I was in the middle of that one. It was a long completion. I enjoyed it, but I think I would not have enjoyed it as much if I was trying to push to get to 40.
And it's that push, I think, that you and I are kind of like
trying to get away from.
Yeah, because I feel a lot happier when I'm just like, I'm playing this game. I'm going to complete this game. Mm-hmm. I'm happy with that, rather than I need to get this, like the whole Assassin's Creed Odyssey Saints Row 4 thing is like, I suddenly stopped.
Right. I need to get this exact thing at this exact time, and I can't move forward until I do it. Yeah, I think I decided early on when I was playing Dragon Age that I was not going to do Rise as my 40th, and instead I was going to do Life is Strange True Colors.
Yeah.
And that it took a lot of pressure off, because it was like I knew Life is Strange was not going to be as long of a game, and so I wasn't setting myself up from going.
And you really enjoyed it.
And I did. And I wasn't setting myself up to go from one long game into another long game.
And also the other thing is Life is Strange is a series that you really enjoy as well as Tomb Raider, and so having that as like this is a special plat.
Exactly. This is nice. A milestone. Was nice. Yeah, exactly. And so I was able to do that and then enjoy Inquisition a lot more than I think I would have if I was anxious about what I was going to do after.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And so trying to rewire our brains a little bit is...
I mean, we are institutionalized.
I know, we are. We have been indoctrinated by the system, and we're trying to get away from that. But yeah, no, I definitely think that it was definitely good for my mental health to not try to push into Rise of the Tomb Raider and do Life is Strange, and then have just a binge of shorter games that all of them were enjoyable. Like, I would say probably the one that I enjoyed the least was Norco.
Because it was a lot stranger than you thought it was.
Yeah, it was strange. the story was strange. And I'm down for some strange things, but it was a little... It wasn't exactly my taste. And so, but everything else was really good. The Life is Strange series, like we said, I really enjoyed. Gris was really good. Crysis was fun to revisit, aside from the achievement problems. Citizen Sleeper was the highlight, I think. That was great. I super enjoyed that. Ravenlok was a fun little thing. And then Road 96 was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Like, the narrative structure was really cool. So, having a little binge of shorter games that were, a lot of them, more story driven, and their own sort of encapsulated little stories, was really cool. And it was nice to do that coming off of Dragon Age Inquisition, which was quite lengthy, and then continued that with the DLCs into last month. And now I'm going into July, and I'm doing another long one. I'm doing Fallout 4. And so having a nice little glut of shorter things in between those two really long ones, I think was a good choice.
I think it's just trying to find that balance. I was looking at PSN profiles while you were talking, and I'm like, I think what I'd like to do is hit specific platinums up until my 5,000th trophy.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I'm going to still aim for like 125, 150, and so on. But I'm not going to worry about my like 6,000th or 7,000th, because I didn't worry initially about what ones I have. And so I have a bunch of random ones to start with.
Yeah.
And then from 2000, I think 2000 I got Insanity 2 in Mass Effect.
Yeah.
Because I wanted a Mass Effect trophy
in
my trophy case for that, because I don't have one, and Mass Effect is one of my favorite. Like,
for sure.
And so I'm like, Insanity 2 is not a plat, but it's hard, and I wanted it on there. And then 2500th was the plat in Jurassic Park. Lego Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Or Lego Jurassic World, and it's Life Finds a Way. And I'm like, I love that line. It's great.
Yeah.
So I wanted that on there. And then my 3000th was the plat for Assassin's Creed Odyssey, because I want an Assassin's Creed game on there, because I've played a lot.
Yeah.
And so I had the Epic Cycle one, and it's got the helmet. It's got the Spartan helmet on it, which I like, because that's the emblem I used in Halo. when the multiplayer. I had the Spartan helmet with the red, gold helmet, red crest.
Yeah, because you're the Praetorian. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which was Roman, but I was like, it's a Spartan helmet. It's good enough.
For sure. Like it's fun to aim for specific things, right? Like I think that is part of the fun, but I think like it's being flexible as well, right? It's like having goals but also being able to be flexible with them, I think helps at least my sanity.
I had to get that one for 3,000 because I was like, it's gonna go and I don't want to not get it. And so it was a bit stressful. And so I need to plan the next one better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which might be in Prey, TranStar Employee of the Year. Or if I get a second controller, it might be in Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time, which is like Masters of Time and Space.
Yeah.
Because I just like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like my fastest plat is completionist. In Don't Touch Anything.
Nice. It's cool to try to hit those specific milestones and things like that. Like I think that's fun. But like you said, you want to plan for it and not put yourself into a place where it's then stressful, right?
And like I don't have a Dark Souls 1. Oh, I do have a Dark Souls 1. I have Dark Souls 3, the Elite one, but I don't count that because it's kind of odd.
Yeah.
Because it's like a random one. But I'm aiming for Demon's Souls for 100, so I need to get a PS5 by that point.
Yeah, we've got a ways to go. I'm
backlog diving at the moment, and I have
for
been.
Sure.
Plans wise for next month, I'm a good way through the Surge. I would recommend it if you're a Soulsborne player that wants something a little bit more techno. Like
sci-fi.
It's sci-fi, like machines instead of creatures.
Yep.
And then I have Elex, and then I will be at 99.7, and one completion away from 400, bar any more damn DLC.
Yeah, more title updates. We don't want them. Make them stop. Do you have a plan for your 500th? 400th?
No.
No. Okay.
The reason is it makes no difference on Xbox because I've lost and gained so many completions over time.
Fair. Yeah,
so
that's true.
I bought this Skyrim notepad to write my Xbox completions in, but I was a damn fool because I wrote the numbers out like 392, 393, 394, 395. Problem is 392 Human Fall Flat, 393 Anthem, 394 Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, 394 again because Human Fall Flat had a DLC is Human Fall Flat.
Right.
And so I had to Tipex out all of the numbers.
Yeah.
And write them in as I go because it keeps dropping. So like Cyberpunk 396, Minecraft 396. Because every time you get a DLC, you lose the number, get it back. And so for Xbox, having my 400th completed game was such doesn't work because it changes over time.
Right.
Potentially.
Potentially, because you'll lose and gain.
Because you could get the 400th one, and then the next game you get is the 400th one, or you get 2 DLCs come out, because I've had that before and knocked me down by 2, and so you end up getting another 400th completion.
Yeah.
So, no.
Messy.
I don't know what I'll do for that one game.
Cool.
I'll think about it.
Yeah. Well, I'm obviously, as I said, I'm doing Fallout 4. I'm pretty far into that. I've done most of the main game, and then I've done all of the little contraptions and
you're at like the point of no return, right?
Yeah. Not quite. I'm not quite there. I'm close to there. Yeah.
Because it's like, what, 4? You got 4 different faction endings you need to get.
Well, I think you only have to get 2. There, maybe it's 3 with the railroad, but
you need 3 because you need the Brotherhood, Railroad, and Institute.
Right. Well, but I think the Railroad and Institute go together for a while.
They do, but there's still another point of no return.
Yes, there's multiple points of no return.
Yeah.
With it. Anyway, I'm pretty close to that. I've done the majority of the trophies for the main game, other than those end game story trophies.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done the majority of the other like small DLCs, so the contraptions in the workshop and the automatron and the
automatron.
Yep. However you want to pronounce that. And then I just think it's fun to call her automatron because kind of the mother of the robots. And then the vault one. And
the mechanist one as well, right?
That's the automatron.
That's
the mechanist DLC.
I couldn't remember what the mechanist one was called. It's been a few years.
Yeah. And so I've done all of those, and I'm a good ways through Far Harbor as well. So
nice.
So I'll have the rest of Far Harbor, Nuka World DLC, which is pretty substantial chunk for that one, and then the end game stuff for the main game. Yeah, so I've still got a little ways to go with it, but
my canon ending for Nuka World is I kill everyone.
That's funny.
And that's literally my save, is I got all the achievements, I reloaded an old save, went on a bandit murder spree, and I was like, and I'm done. Because I don't care about any of you.
Oh, that's funny. So yeah, I think that I'm probably 2/3 to 3/4 of the way through the game at this point with all of that stuff done.
Nice.
So I'll finish that for sure this month, and then I'm not 100% sure what I'm gonna go to after that. I think I might go back to Xbox and do GTA Vice City, or I might do something else depending on what I'm feeling like at the moment. I've been kind of following just like, what do I feel like playing now for a little bit, and that's nice. You know, rather than tying myself to something and trying to meticulously plan out what my next 7 things are gonna be.
Right.
You know? So I might do GTA Vice City after Fallout, or I might do something else. We'll see. So cool. Well, that was June. Quite a month.
Yep.
For
and
us.
Halfway through the year.
Through the year.
Let us know if you have any goals that you're aiming for the year and how you've been getting on with them.
Mm-hmm. What you've been playing, how you've been enjoying things.
If you haven't been enjoying things, you know, you
join
can
us. Join us in melancholy, because we've been there / are there, you know. So let us know how you're doing and how your gaming is going, and how everything's shaping up for you at this midpoint of the year here. And we will see you next month.
Bye-bye.